The Attorney General's office says Smith confessed to helping the inmates yesterday, days after their escape last week. But Smith's lawyer says the person responsible is Courtney Harris, not Casey Smith. Her lawyer says Smith was simply in the car with her cousin, who got a call and later gave a few men a ride. Smith's lawyer says she didn't know who the men were, but the Attorney General's office says that is not possible as these men's faces were plastered all over national news.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. First tonight, we are learning new details into the arrest of an East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's deputy accused of malfeasance and 3 counts of bringing contraband into a penal institution.
Just after 8:30 Friday night, Trayvon Johnson was escorted back into the Tangipahoa Parish Jail. Officials tell WDSU the 22-year-old who escaped Thursday afternoon was caught on Bennett Road in a meeting 22 hours after his escape. Video shows Johnson and another inmate, Trayvon Wallace, running from the facility, tossing a piece of fabric on the fence, and Johnson could be seen climbing over it.
And a former Caddo Parish deputy faces battery charges after hitting an inmate accused in the death of the deputy's sister. The sheriff's office tells us that Brandon Merritt was hit several times by former deputy DeVarcier Small.
County Parish, a former jail employee, is under arrest accused of smuggling drugs to inmates in the jail.
According to Sheriff Jason Smith, the inmate, identified as James Lorio, was moving through the air conditioning duct at the parish jail. Now that's when corrections officers were alerted. Lorio then returned to his cell after realizing his escape path had been blocked.
Louisiana's parish jails are widely regarded as some of the most dangerous and poorly maintained detention facilities in the United States. Chronic issues such as overcrowding, understaffing, violence, and neglect plague these jails, which often operate under substandard conditions. Despite repeated lawsuits, federal consent decrees, and public scrutiny, these facilities continue to face significant challenges, from frequent inmate escapes to alarmingly high mortality rates. The following highlights the most problematic jails in Louisiana, showcasing the systemic issues that endanger inmates and staff alike.
The sheriff says it all happened around 10:30 p.m. last night. OPSO says the 3 men tried to break into the jail with bags of drugs. Guards spotted them and then dispatched the team to go out and arrest the men. But all 3 men ran, according to the sheriff. One was caught.
Afternoon, sources in law enforcement tell WDSU there were 4 stabbing-related incidents at the Orleans Justice Center this week. And 3 of those incidents, the inmates had to be treated for injuries.
Now to an update on that fight inside the Orleans Justice Center on Friday. The sheriff's office says one of the 3 injured inmates has died. So the 3 were sent to University Medical Center on Friday. One inmate who was critically injured in the fight died around 1:30 yesterday afternoon.
Investigating 2 separate stabbings at the jail. A spokesperson confirms to WDSU 1 stabbing.
And the most startling information that we have just learned is that it appears that there was not a deputy present in a pod when a deadly fight broke out Friday. There was someone inside of a control module. People here today say they are frustrated and things need to change fast.
Trevon Williams is already an inmate in the Orleans Justice Center. Investigators say he helped with the initial jailbreak. And a woman who allegedly helped 3 of the escaped inmates is sitting in jail on a $1 million bond. And today, NOPD arrested Casey Smith, who's on your screen, after they say she helped them drive around
and
once they broke out.
we're learning more tonight about why 4 of the guards walked off the job last week at the Orleans Parish Jail.
Susie, I'm told that it's due to an increase of inmates, which is making it a difficult task for staff trying to keep the prison safe, which worries nearby residents.
The Orleans Parish Justice Center is one of Louisiana's most troubled facilities. Designed to hold 1,250 inmates, it housed approximately 1,474 by mid-2024, creating severe overcrowding. Under a federal consent decree since 2013 for unconstitutional conditions, the jail has faced ongoing criticism for inadequate mental health care, unsafe environments, and severe understaffing. Sheriff Susan Hudson has cited years of deferred maintenance as a major factor in the jail's deterioration. In May 2025, 10 inmates escaped through a toilet wall in a highly publicized breakout. While 4 were quickly recaptured, 6 remained at large for days. The escape exposed significant security weaknesses, including outdated cameras and broken locks. Previous incidents of unrest, including fights and riots, were reported as recently as 2021. Orleans Parish jails also have some of the highest rates of suicides and overdoses in custody in Louisiana, accounting for 61% and 54% of such incidents, respectively, far exceeding national averages.
In August, investigators monitored jail phone calls of suspected members of the 60 gang. That led them to Tibericia Gibson, a former sheriff's deputy at East Baton Rouge Parish Prison. Her arrest warrant says 2 inmates were coordinating exchanges of contraband through social media. Then on August 19th, a video was recorded of a handoff of a smuggled package intercepting drugs and a cell phone. According to arresting documents, Gibson was dating inmate Rashawn Alexander, giving him information about a gang member who's expected to testify against him.
As more people die in the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison than any other parish in the state. The East Baton Rouge Parish Prison Reform Coalition says the local facility is in a crisis.
The convicted killer of a former LSU basketball player has been found dead in prison. 23-year-old Dighton Simpson was recently sentenced to life in prison.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Prison is infamous for deplorable conditions, high inmate mortality, and overcrowding. Between 2012 and 2016, the facility's death rate was more than double the national average, with over 40 deaths reported since 2012. Inmates endure moldy, vermin-infested environments, broken doors, and overcrowded cell blocks, some of which were reactivated despite being condemned. Violence and neglect are rampant. In 2015, an inmate died by suicide after allegations of mistreatment, and in 2016, a detainee died from tasing. That same year, deputies were recorded pepper spraying peaceful protesters, drawing national attention. In 2020, a coalition sued the prison over unsafe conditions during the COVID-19 pandemic. With an incarceration rate of 381 per 100,000 above the U.S. average, the prison's alarming death toll underscores its systemic failings.
It's been a busy Memorial Day weekend for the Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office, with 4 inmates escaping, but with their absence not being detected for hours. Chief Jimmy Travis says Trayvon Johnson and Avery Guidry escaped Saturday, and on Sunday, Omarion Hookfin and Jamarcus Cyprian got away. And they all left the same way. Officials were not even aware of the missing inmates until they received a tip from a family member after the escapees, Johnson and Guidry, tried to seek refuge in their homes. Travis blames short staffing, a lack of training, and large turnover in the jail kept guards from noticing the young men were gone.
Tangipahoa Parish Jail is notorious for repeated escapes, highlighting severe security and staffing deficiencies. Over the past few years, the jail has experienced at least 6 breakouts. In May 2024, 4 inmates crawled under a wall and over razor wire to escape. 1 inmate evaded capture for 6 months. In June 2025, a 19-year-old homicide suspect escaped for the 2nd time by scaling a perimeter fence. Local reports attribute these escapes to insufficient training, lax supervision, and manpower shortages. Despite the jail's notoriety, there is no federal oversight or consent decree. Its breakout rate and recurring security lapses make it one of Louisiana's most problematic facilities. The Washington Parish Jail is severely overcrowded and dilapidated. Built for 144 inmates, it held over 200 detainees by 2024. The jail is unique in that its cells do not have locking doors. These were removed years ago, leaving detainees effectively free to roam within the facility. This lack of security has resulted in frequent violence, including reports of fights, assaults, and rapes. The jail operates with only 4 deputies at a time, who must supervise as many as 50-70 inmates each. Fire safety violations are rampant.
State police say they were able to make today's arrests after obtaining evidence from July to September. The Washington Parish Sheriff's Office contacted state police about a criminal complaint back on September 8th. Now, charges in these incidents range from malfeasance in office and battery to first degree. The mother of that alleged victim says it happened a few days after Labor Day. She says her son told her there were screams and no one came to help.
Yeah, guys, it sounds like something out of a movie, and maybe if this was a movie, maybe the plan would have worked out well, but in this case, it didn't. That inmate's breakout attempt did not get him far. They say he stacked an ice chest and a mat on top of a cellmate's bunk and climbed into an air duct looking for a way out. Surveillance cameras didn't catch a full glimpse of him, but they didn't have to. A 24-hour manned surveillance room staff member caught inmates in another block flagging down the guards. Lorio wasn't exactly silent when shimmying through the air duct. Deputies say once he realized his plan was ruined, he tried to squeeze back through the way he came. But by the time deputies got to Lorio's cell, they say he had crawled back down, laid on the floor, and covered himself with a blanket as if he did not just try to escape minutes.
We took our cameras into the Washington Parish Jail, into the cell blocks. Most of those conditions have now been addressed. The jail's certainly cleaner, and the necessities are there. All of the bunks have new mattresses, even if some of the inmates find themselves bunking on the floor.
With over 20 citations issued since 2020, Sheriff Jason Smith has called the conditions inhumane and described the jail as a lawsuit waiting to happen. By nearly every measure, overcrowding, staff to inmate ratios, and safety violations, Washington Parish Jail ranks as one of the state's worst.
Hi there, Ton. At the end of what was dubbed Operation Not So Trusty, 11 people were arrested. That includes inmates accused of selling and buying on the inside and their significant others alleged to have served as suppliers on the outside. Smith says the probe began when his staff started noticing a sharp increase in drugs found behind bars shortly after shutting down the controversial work release program. Smith says investigators discovered 6 trustees were working in collaboration with 2 of their spouses, as well as an inmate behind bars for his role in a large drug dealing operation, and his spouse to have drugs dropped at their various work sites to be picked up and brought back into the jail. Those included the jail kitchen, maintenance barn, and the parish litter abatement program. The fallout totaled 11 arrests.
We're fortunate that we put a stop to it for now. We'll monitor the situation.
Of an inmate at the St. Tammany Parish Correctional Center, the unidentified 64-year-old man reported not feeling well on Wednesday night and was transferred to the medical observation dorm. At around 2:45 this morning, a worker at the jail saw the man was unresponsive and called for an ambulance.
Law enforcement on the North Shore have been searching for an escaped inmate who is in jail involving a murder for hire. Deputies say the man broke out of St. Tammany Parish Jail about 10 last night. Here's the man, 39-year-old Carlos Rodriguez from Kenner.
A former jail employee is under arrest accused of smuggling drugs to inmates in the jail. Another jail employee found suspicious outgoing mail and alerted jail investigators and the St. Tammany Sheriff's Office. As a result of that investigation, 23-year-old Brianna Sparrow was fired and arrested.
St. Tammany Parish deputies investigating an inmate death there. We're told an inmate was taken to the hospital just about 3 o'clock this morning after he had called for medical attention.
St. Tammany Parish Jail is infamous for overcrowded holding cells, with detainees frequently crammed into spaces designed for far fewer people. Reports from 2020 revealed that some cells held as many as 15-30 inmates in spaces meant for just a handful. These conditions violate Louisiana's minimum jail standards and have been deemed unconstitutional. A federal class action lawsuit was filed in 2020, citing persistent crowding and inadequate mental health care. The jail has been under scrutiny since a 2012 DOJ investigation found similar issues. Despite this, little has changed. Detainees continue to endure inhumane conditions, with overcrowding posing severe risks for violence and disease.
Deputy Sheriff Steve Prater says Rochelle punched 2 members of the jail's emergency response team.
And a former Caddo Parish deputy faces battery charges after hitting an inmate accused in the death of the deputy's sister. The sheriff's office tells us that Brandon Merritt was hit several times by former deputy DeVarcier Small while Merritt was in his cell. Now, Merritt is charged with LaJaw Small at a Mansfield Road bar back on September 2nd. And Devarcier Small resigned after the attack happened and was later arrested and charged with civil battery.
Releases new information on the death of a Caddo correctional inmate. According to the report, 31-year-old Casey Simpson was found unconscious in his cell around 12:30 in the afternoon on March the 16th. Deputies performed CPR until paramedics arrived and transported Simpson to a local hospital. He died a few hours later.
Last year, CCC has been struggling with overcrowding. The facility was designed to hold only 1,070 inmates. Cells designed for 2 people, now holding 3.
Caddo Correctional Center deputy is under arrest for allegedly distributing THC and synthetic marijuana inside of the jail. Ashton Brown was arrested this morning. He is facing several charges, including possession with the intent to distribute and malfeasance in office. Brown was immediately fired. 2 CCC inmates were also arrested.
The Caddo Correctional Center is plagued by chronic overcrowding and understaffing. Built for 1,070 inmates, the facility housed 1,456 in 2022, exceeding capacity by over 35%. Delayed trials contribute to the overpopulation, with many detainees languishing for years while awaiting court dates. In 2024, 2 deputies were arrested for beating an inmate, raising concerns about the culture of violence within the facility. The jail also struggles with a lack of resources, forcing authorities to transfer inmates during periods of extreme overcrowding. While not under federal oversight, the facility's severe crowding and reports of staff misconduct have drawn widespread criticism. The conditions in Louisiana's parish jails paint a grim picture of systemic failure. From the overcrowding and deteriorating infrastructure of the Orleans Justice Center to the violence and neglect at the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison, these facilities operate far below acceptable standards, with frequent escapes, understaffing, and inhumane living conditions. Many of these jails not only violate basic human rights, but also pose risks to public safety. Addressing these deeply rooted issues will require significant reform, investment, and accountability to ensure that these jails meet both constitutional and ethical standards.